Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous. That's a 2025 Subaru Forester. It's a base model in crimson red metallic, which looks really nice in person. And that's a 2025 Mazda CX-5. It's an S Select. The Forester is in a brand new generation, so this is the one that you're probably going to have for the next 5, 6, 7 years. The CX-5, however, it's actually been around for quite a few years, since about 2016, so this one is due for a refresh anytime. But are they still competitive? Are these very low trim levels that both cost around $30,000, potentially worth your time and money? Honestly, guys, if you are considering a Forester or a CX-5, I think you're already comparing a good choice with another good choice because they're both top safety picks. They both have pretty darn good all-wheel drive systems. They both can seat 5 passengers, have over 30 cubic feet of room in the back, and they can do a lot of things well. They have good visibility, a lot of standard safety features, and comfortable rides with decent capability all around. So today we're going to get into a side-by-side comparison of these two vehicles. And if you're new to my channel, it's worth mentioning that my wife and I own a 2025 Forester, and I used to have a Miata. So a Mazda. I've owned both of these brands before, and I like them both a lot, so maybe you guys will as well. So with that said, if you guys like anything you see today, please consider liking this video. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that said, let's get right into this comparison review. So while these are both assembled in Japan and shipped overseas to the North American market if you live where I live, but also sold in a few other markets around the world, and they sell over 100,000 units every single year in North America alone, they're pretty popular. In fact, I think the Subaru and the Mazda are two of the best of the Japanese brands, with the other ones being Honda, Toyota, and Nissan. There's actually quite a few differences that I was not expecting to find for the $30,000 price point. They both have very defined strengths and weaknesses that we're going to get into, but also don't overlook the fact that these are base models. Consider how they look proportionally. Consider how they look on a dirt lot and how they're going to compare to each other in the wild for all the other aspects. Because whether you're going to pay $30,000 for these or 40 to 45 for fully loaded examples, a lot of the physical dimensions and things like that are not going to change. It's just going to be the creature comforts, maybe a few added safety features that are going to change. But overall, this is, 90% of what you're paying for. So first of all, I actually forgot to mention huge thanks to the Goody Motor Mazda group. I'll link them below. And huge thanks to Twin Falls Subaru for letting me borrow this one for the day. These guys both sell below MSRP and they ship all over the country. They're some of the best dealerships in the nation, so definitely check them out if you're interested. But when you're comparing these compact crossovers, you should first of all know that they are both basically the same dimensions. They're both roughly 15 feet long, about 6 feet wide, and around 5.5 feet tall. The Mazda has around 7.5 inches of ground clearance. The Forester has around 8.5 or 8.7 inches, and then they both have really good all-wheel drive systems. And in fact, last winter I have driving videos in the winter of each of these to let you know exactly how they do and what I think of their all-wheel drive systems. But at $30,000, there's going to be some cheap things that you really can't complain about. They both have prop rods. The Mazda's hood actually feels much heavier than the Forester's, which I don't like. Maybe they could have used a little bit thinner metal or a little bit stronger, thinner structurally metal to save some weight there. But they both weigh in the mid 3,000 pound ballpark. They both can tow up to a couple thousand pounds, but the Mazda can be offered with a turbo if you want to spend about $9 grand more than what this lower trim level offers. So you can get a nicer driving, powerful experience. This also handles better on the road. It doesn't actually turn more quickly than a Forester. It does about a 36 full circle just like the Forester, but it weight shifts better. The suspension tuning is nicer, but the Forester is maybe more forgiving. It handles rough roads better. Trying to get onto this dirt lot, for example, it felt like nothing in the Forester. I've taken Foresters and Outbacks up sidewalks so many times. That's not something I like to do so much in Mazdas. So they both have their strengths and weaknesses. The Forester is going to be a little bit better off-road. The Mazda might be a little bit better on-road, but honestly, most people, especially if you guys don't daily drive a lot of different vehicles, you might not notice a lot of difference. You might just know that they both feel very buttoned down, very sporty, and they do a good job overall. But under the hood, they do their power numbers quite a bit differently. This has a 2.5 liter Skyactiv G engine. It's transversely mounted, so even though it is kind of a front-wheel drive setup, it's misleading when you actually take it off-road or in the snow. It feels really good with how much power goes to the rear through the power transfer unit. But you do have an engine mount. And then the reservoirs, they're kind of scattered around. They're not as easy to identify as the Foresters, but you still have the fuse box, the battery, the air filter, and it's all pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Makes about 187 horse, about 186 pound-feet of torque, only needs 87 octane, which is good because this thing doesn't actually get fantastic mileage. It's only rated for about 23 city, about 29 on the highway. So with a 16-gallon tank, which is a similar size to the Forester, you're not getting quite as far of distance, whereas the Forester gets about 26 in the city, about 33 on the highway. So about 3 to 4 mpg better in that one. And overall, I do like the layout. If you do have the turbo model, it's at least easy to find and identify because the turbo is back there on the exhaust manifold. But now if we come over from this one and look at the Forester, first of all, notice it's kind of cramped in here and the engine sits up really high, especially with the engine cover. Now if we look over here, the engine is super sunken in. There's more room all around. Part of that is the Boxer design, where this is also a 2.5-liter displacement engine, induction, baffling, throttle body, intake runners. The block is split because that's how Boxer engines work. It's two blocks mated together, two halves. But you have a front-facing engine, more of a rear-wheel drive setup. So you have the alternator, the serpentine belt. It's right here instead of crammed on the passenger side. You also have all of your reservoirs and even a top-mount oil filter. So you're less likely to cause a spill or knock that thing off-roading in a traditional setup, which nothing against the Mazda. That's just how most automakers do it. But that's a really nice setup. Otherwise, fuse box and battery still on the passenger side. But its power level, it's a little bit lower. It's only about 180 horsepower in this revised 2.5-liter Boxer and about 178 pound-feet of torque. So neither one of these is exceptionally fast and powerful, but at least that one is offered with a turbo. But there is going to be a hybrid version of this coming soon, and it's supposed to be pretty good, but we'll see what happens when it comes out. I actually think the back of both of these look pretty good. I did a video of the rear of the CX-50 and the Outback just the other day, and I think these two models look a little bit better. I still don't exactly know how to describe the back of the Forester, but I actually kind of dig that Forester stamped in. I know that might be kind of a bandwagon thing and everyone's doing it these days, but it still is kind of cool versus having like a silver badge on the back. And then the Mazda, kind of like the CX-50, it has a little bit of a frowny face. It doesn't have the sideburns from the fake ventilation that the CX-50 has, but you can still see the frowny face, which is maybe more predominant in this one. A big nose and some angry eyes. Kind of interesting. I think they both actually look pretty good and they're well done back here. And then this is usually when I would show you which one is faster for opening the power liftgate. The problem is the Forester base model doesn't have that, and I don't believe the Mazda does either, but those are options that you can buy. So let's pop both of these and see which hatch feels heavier, which one has better springs. Actually, maybe the Forester on this one. When you do have the power liftgate though, only one of the shocks is powered, and I believe both of the Mazdas are, so that might be a win for the Mazda. But a ding that it has is only about 29 cubic feet behind the second row, whereas the Forester has around 32 or 33. So a little bit more room back here. But the bigger, more noticeable thing is, I think this seat is dropped on the CX-5. So when you drop the seats, you actually have over 70 cubic feet of room back here. Whereas when you drop the seats on the Mazda, you only have in the 50s. So even though that is a 20 cubic foot difference, they are still, again, both compact crossovers, and they both come with just a spare tire, a temporary one. If you have a higher trim level of this, you can actually have a subwoofer down here in the wheel well, which is designed really well. It doesn't rattle or anything like that. And if you have a higher trim level of this one, you can have a subwoofer on one of the sides, just like the Outbacks have. Otherwise, I would say both hatches open to about the same height. The Mazda is almost hidden by the Forester right there. So pretty cool. Just keep in mind, if you have an older house, if you don't have as high of a garage, some of these do feel pretty high on modern cars, especially depending on the angle of the hatch and how far out it sticks versus how tall it sticks. So just make sure you don't bang your hatch into your roof. But with the grab handles that these have, they're not too difficult to lower down, slam down. The Mazda felt really good. Yeah, the Subaru felt pretty good too. And we're about to take to the interior because that's realistically where you guys are spending most of your time. But first we have to talk about these 17-inch wheels. And I'd love if you guys would comment below which one you like more. But what is surprising, one of those interesting aspects of these vehicles is, while being both 17s, while being both G91 Yokohama tires with about 9/32 of tread, that's a smaller wheel. It's a 225/60 sidewall 17. That's a 225/65. So interestingly enough, even with less ground clearance, that actually has a one size bigger tire. But if we do come around to the front of the Subaru, which has roof rails and pretty solid ones, I can shake the whole vehicle from that. The Mazda, while having a fishtail antenna, it doesn't have roof rails. But if we do go to the door panel, on this base model, again, this is the lowest trim level you can buy with basically no options. Nice soft touch materials, but there's a variety of materials. All other mats are already installed, pedals, fuse box, not really anything on the dash for options. This is your seat. I actually like Subaru cloth seats quite a lot. This one does not have the giant panoramic sunroof, which is not even offered on the Mazdas. The ones that have sunroofs, they're just little ones. But sitting inside here, notice no leather wrapped wheel. The horn, I do like this extension piece. You have voice and volume on the left. You can do Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. The base model has this wonky double screen. I honestly don't know why Subaru even designed double screens. Just include the silly 11.6-inch screen because it's basically the same thing. But this is going to be kind of funny. I actually think that this smaller screen sometimes is more responsive than the big one. There's a little bit of glare on it, but what big screen these days don't have glare? And then you have more safety features on this than you do on the Mazda because you have lane keep assist. You can also do cruise control without eyesight. And then you have a sport mode and intelligent mode built in, but so does the Mazda, as you'll see soon enough. Otherwise, you have a nice big storage tray, some plugins, and aux. The backup camera, clarity is no better or worse than the larger screen on the higher trim levels. Trajectory lines do move, which I appreciate. Otherwise, you have an electronic parking brake at 12 volt, some cup holders where they belong, where you can fit big gallon-sized, really tall drinks, and then a decent-sized center console. Otherwise, you still have a sunglass holder. You have LED lighting even on the Space model, but this does not slide. It only extends out. And then is there lighting here? There is not, so that's kind of interesting. Otherwise, let's hop out and hop into the Mazda. I forgot to show you guys, but the Forester has a physical old school key, so no proximity key features. This Mazda has the key, but it only has the lock and panic button, no power liftgate obviously, or remote start from the key. You do have turn signals on the mirror. You also have blind spot monitoring on both of these vehicles, but you even have proximity key features here to lock and unlock the vehicle. But if the vehicle's already running, it's just gonna beep at you and throw a fit. Otherwise, the door panel, black materials, but soft touch. They're probably gonna age really well. You probably can already tell that the window, quite a bit smaller than the Forester. You don't have as good of visibility in this one. But check this out. I don't know if that's real leather, but you basically have leather seats even on this $30,000 example. Again, no sunroof up top. It doesn't have LEDs like the Forester, just incandescent, but still not bad. The mats are not yet installed. You have your hood release. You even have a button to pop the gas door, so no one's gonna be siphoning your fuel. Just like the Forester, when the vehicle's locked, the gas door locks. You don't really have any extra options, just kind of the off-road mode, which the Foresters have through the screen. Ventilation, lighting, stock. All around, these vehicles do have really nice LED headlights. But sitting inside here, leather-wrapped wheel. It's not heated. Voice and volume on the left. You can go through info right there. You really don't have a lot of information that you can look at, but you have enough. I like that it's physical gauges on this one. The horn, actually, that doesn't sound too bad. You have this screen, which I know is not everyone's favorite, but I actually kind of like how the scrolly dial system works. So you can push home, you can go through that, and it's just pretty easy to use. I actually really like that when I had my Miata. And then something I love about this, physical dials. It even has heated seats at this price point, being the second lowest trim level. And you have a smaller storage tray than the Forester. The backup camera, better clarity, but when I turn the wheel, the lines don't move. So that's maybe a wash. And then you have sport mode up, but you don't have any off-road mode right there. I'd assume that that's like your hill climb type of mode, which are you really gonna be climbing hills in your CX-5? Probably not. But you have electronic parking brake, auto vehicle hold, which that is set up through the screen on the Subarus. And then you have some cup holders. You have a lifty tray, and then you have some plugins in your smaller sized center console. Otherwise, up here you still have a sunglass holder, incandescent lights again, and then just like the Forester, you have a slide and an incandescent light, so not too bad. Anyways, let's hop out and hop into the back seat of the Forester. Whether you're on the shadow side of these vehicles with the sunlight or the sunny side, I think they both look really good. Red is definitely a very famous color on Mazda's Soul Red, but crimson red just as good in my opinion. There's a lot of sparkle in the paint. But the door panel, basically the exact same as the front. The seats do lay basically flat, and you can even recline them with a little strap, but not on the base model. And then if you sit behind yourself at 5'11", I have that much room in front of my knees. So most of my hand, which is pretty good. These seats, again, are light enough that I can easily lift them, but no center armrest in this one like I would have on the more expensive ones. And no ventilation, plugins, or heated seats, which are basically all the blank buttons, but at least Subaru goes through the effort of giving you a phone pocket. If your phone, your modern 2025 year phone, can even fit in there. And then bigger windows, kind of, as I mentioned earlier, bigger windows than what you get on the Mazda for a little bit better visibility. So let's hop out and hop into that one. And then the back door panel, just like the Forester, it opens very wide. Not quite to 90 degrees, but I'm sure you have at least 70 degrees of actual access right there. But again, it's all black. It looks really nice. It's probably gonna age well, but it's kind of that gloomy, dark colored interior. You don't have very many light accents in here. And then these seats don't look like they can, oh, actually, can you? Ooh, you can recline just a little bit on these ones. So that's pretty neat. But sitting inside here at 5'11", not much room. Remember, that's about half the room that I had in the Forester. Lifting up the seat, it's definitely more heavy. That one is basically stuck from where the passenger seat is because there's just not a lot of room in here, but at least it lays almost flat. You have an armrest and some plugins in there. Pretty cool design. And then you have ventilation, but you can see this one doesn't have any other options than that. And again, smaller window in the back, but at least I have enough headroom that I'm not rubbing or feeling too claustrophobic. And this is really a nice place to be. Ultimately, if you guys can't tell, I like these vehicles a lot. For about $30,000, I really don't think you can go wrong either way. They're both top safety picks or higher. They both have all the standard safety features that your heart could want and your brain could desire to keep you and your family safe, especially the really bright LEDs. That is one of the things that has drawn me to these brands for being the actual brands that I personally have purchased. Just knowing that they're protecting you and your family, knowing that if you drive at night a lot, you're not gonna have to worry about how well you can see the road. The fact that both of these Japanese automakers are still building these vehicles in Japan, where things just seem to be a little bit better put together, and they offer you a lot. In fact, I think they offer you about as much as they probably can afford to. I don't think these companies are getting rich off of you, like maybe the American trucks. I think these companies are giving you a very good value, a very good product that is hopefully and likely gonna last you a long time. We know these, which have been coming out this second generation since 2016, 2017, they've held up really well. A lot of people, the early year ones, they don't wanna upgrade because theirs is basically the same as this. Or the new Forester, which Subaru plays it very safe. They really don't do drastic redesigns. They just do kind of revisions of each of their products, which is why under the hood it looks so simple, it's easy to work on, and this body shape really doesn't look much different than the 5th generation from last year. So ultimately, I'm pretty happy with both of these vehicles. I think if you're considering one of these, you're making a good decision, but always test drive the competition. Check out these and maybe a half dozen others so that you guys make the right decision for you. It's fun to test drive vehicles, especially if you're gonna be pocketing 30 grand or financing or leasing or however you guys decide to buy one of these. Definitely make sure that you're buying the right vehicle for you. Check out Twin Falls Subaru, Goody Mazda, very good dealerships. And if you guys got anything out of this video, please consider liking this video. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care, and until next time, see ya.